The first hours. The water comes from nowhere. No warning, no siren. Just a brown wall folding around the highway pillars below you, like the ocean forgot where it was supposed to stop. 3 seconds ago, you were drumming your fingers on the steering wheel, watching a cargo ship crawl across the horizon. You don't understand what you're seeing. Then you do. It moves fast. 0.4 meters per minute. Not a flood, a replacement. The street doesn't fill. It disappears. A green traffic sign drops below the surface in under 40 seconds. A child's pink plastic bike spins past in the current, perfectly upright, like someone just set it down. You get out of the car. Your dress shirt is still tucked in. You climb onto the roof of your sedan without deciding to. Your shoes slip on the metal. You catch yourself. You stand up. You hold your arms out like a tightrope walker above a street that no longer exists. The sun is still out. No clouds. That's the wrong detail, but it's true. The sky is the exact blue it was at 2:15 p.m. The world looks correct from the chest up. Below the guardrails, it does not. The water is at 1.1 meters now, then 1.5. You watch it climb the concrete pillars like a measurement. The cars around you are still running, hazard lights blinking orange under brown water, windows sealed, doors swelling. Nobody else got out in time. Your phone is in the cup holder, submerged. The go bag you've been meaning to pack, the one with the bottled water, the flashlight, the $200 cash, is in the trunk. Also submerged. You are 3.2 meters above the old road surface. The water is rising to meet you. Not anymore is there a road. Not anymore is there a neighborhood. The horizon is flat ocean where a suburb used to be. You have your shoes. You have your keys to a car that won't start. You have 20 minutes to figure out what comes next. Day 1. You don't figure it out. Someone else does. A woman in a yellow rain slicker shouts from the overpass rail. She points inland, uphill, toward the rest stop sign half a kilometer away. You follow her. You don't know her name. She doesn't ask yours. You walk fast, then faster, on asphalt that is still dry but warm and wrong under your feet. The rest stop sits 8 meters above the old sea level. Right now that feels like everything. Inside, roughly 200 people cover every centimeter of floor. They sit on backpacks and balled-up jackets, backs against vending machines, knees pulled to chests. 4 yellow battery lamps hang from ceiling hooks, throwing pools of gold light across wet boots lined up at the entrance like a normal Tuesday at a ski lodge. A folding table near the door holds a power strip running a single orange extension cord out through the glass door to a car battery on the sidewalk. 6 phones charge from it. 12 people wait in line. You find a wall and sit down. The bathroom door has a handwritten sign taped at eye level. Block letters, black marker. No water, tank flooded. You stare at it for a long time. A battery radio on the floor broadcasts on 10:40 a.m. The message loops. A calm official voice says storm surge is expected to peak at 1.8 meters. Evacuate low-lying zones. Return to your homes within 48 hours. The message is 12 hours old. Outside the windows, headlights from the parking lot glow orange under 0.6 meters of standing water, the cars themselves invisible below the surface. You try your phone. Someone lent you theirs. No signal. Then 1 bar. You call home. It rings 7 times. You call again. Nothing. The cell network drops at noon. You know because the man next to you says, "It's noon," like an announcement, then sets his phone face down on the floor. You learn that not knowing is a physical thing. You learn it sits behind your sternum. You learn it doesn't move. The radio loops again. 1.8 meters. 48 hours. Return home. You don't look at the parking lot. You already know what's under it. 1 week. The radio doesn't loop anymore. A real voice comes through on 10:40 a.m. A woman, calm, measured. She says oceanographers have confirmed it. The surge is not receding. Sea level has jumped a permanent 1.8 meters in 7 days. More rises are projected. She says permanent twice. The second time, the room goes quiet in a way that's different from before. You look at the concrete pillar by the entrance. Someone painted a waterline mark there 4 days ago in red spray paint. The water is 11 centimeters above that line now. Laundry hangs between the light poles outside. Shirts, socks, a child's jacket. Because people are still doing laundry. Because what else do you do? A raft of coolers lashed with yellow nylon rope bobs at the entrance ramp. The water is brown. It smells like salt and something else. Your ration is 0.5 liters of water per day now, half a standard bottle. You drink it in 3 careful pulls, morning, noon, night. Your lips are cracked. A man came back by boat yesterday. He'd paddled 4 kilometers from town. He said the ground floor of your building is fully under. He said the whole structure is listing maybe 8 degrees east. He said it matter-of-factly, like weather. You nodded. You thanked him. You sat back down and stared at your hands for a while. Not going back. Not anymore. The fight starts over a single case of water. 24 half-liter bottles. Maybe 3 days of rations for 2 people. 2 men, one in a gray Carhartt jacket, one bigger, louder. It happens fast. Then it gets loud. You step in without thinking. You don't plan it. Your hands go up, palms out, and you put yourself between them. The bigger man catches you across the mouth. Your lip splits. You taste copper. You don't move. You stand there with blood on your chin, hands still raised, and something in the air goes flat and still. The crowd watches. Both men step back. Nobody speaks for 4 seconds. Then someone does, quiet, asking about the water, and it becomes a conversation instead of a fight. You wipe your mouth with the back of your hand. Your hands aren't shaking. That surprises you. 1 month. The paper is a single page, 3 paragraphs, a line at the bottom for your signature. The FEMA worker doesn't look at you when she slides it across the folding table. She's got a stack of 40 more behind yours. The form says voluntary property surrender, but the word voluntary is doing a lot of work. Your zip code was decommissioned 6 days ago. Officially, your address no longer exists. You sign, you date it, you push it back. You walk away from that table carrying nothing that can be insured. You don't go to the resettlement camp. There are 11 of you. Nobody elected a leader. Nobody had to. You found each other the way people find each other now, by watching what someone does when it gets hard, and deciding to stay near them. The warehouse sits at 14 meters elevation. Red brick, 4 stories, built in 1961. The floodwater settled 6 meters below the loading bay on the 3rd floor. Waterlogged trees stick up from the drowned street like dead fingers pointing at the sky. The 1st and 2nd floor windows are already bricked up with salvaged cinder blocks. That took 8 days and 2 broken hands. A rope and pulley system hangs from the loading door. 2 canoes are tied to a drain pipe at water level. You paddle 800 meters to the flooded Home Depot by canoe. The roof broke the surface 3 weeks ago. Now it's a platform. You find 4 250-watt solar panels still in their packaging in what used to be the garden center. You load them one at a time. The canoe rides 4 centimeters above the waterline on the last trip. You don't rush. You paddle slow and even. Orange extension cords run down from the roof in thick, crude bundles. Laundry hangs from the iron bars on the 3rd floor windows. Real laundry. Dry laundry. The panels pull enough for 6 hours of LED light a night and a single phone charging rotation. A month ago, you didn't know what a charge controller was. You know now. 6 months. You paddle down what used to be 5th Avenue. The traffic light at the intersection of 5th and Commerce still cycles. Red, green, red. Its backup battery running on some circuit you'll never understand. The red light bleeds across 2.1 meters of dark water. You don't stop for it. The canoe cuts slow and straight down the center. Green algae coats every building facade up to the new waterline, a bright ring like a bathtub stain marking exactly 2.4 meters above where the sea used to end. 2nd-story windows gape open on both sides, dark and accessible. You know this grid. You've memorized it the way you used to memorize drive times. Left at the old pharmacy. Right where the parking garage still shows the top of its ramp sign above the surface. You drop the weighted rope every 30 meters. Knots tied every 0.3 meters. You read it by feel. 1.8, 2.1, 1.5, shallow. You back paddle 2 strokes and go around. Nobody taught you this. You taught yourself. The grocery store is on the corner of 5th and Marin. The first floor is gone. The second floor is yours. You break the window with a salvaged fire axe, the same one you've used 11 times now, its handle wrapped in grip tape where the wood split in month 2. Inside, canned tomatoes, canned chickpeas, 4 cases of condensed milk still dry on a shelf above the flood line. You work for 40 minutes. You load 60 kilograms. The canoe sits low and you balance it with your knees pressed to both gunnels the whole way back. Your life vest is Coast Guard orange under the duct tape. Your helmet has a 220 lumen headlamp bolted to the front with a hose clamp. You wear both, even in daylight now. The wedding ring is gone. You traded it 3 weeks ago. A salvage man in a green aluminum skiff, he had a hand-cranked marine radio, Grundig Ocean Boy, one of the good ones. He wanted the ring. You gave it to him before you finished thinking about it. The radio reaches 300 kilometers of former coastline. You hear voices every night. Settlements, warnings, weather, water depths. The ring reached nothing. You know that was the right call. That's the part that stays with you. 1 year. The water rises 0.6 meters in 72 hours. Not a wave, not a storm. Just the sea deciding, quietly and permanently, to move up one more step. An Antarctic ice shelf, the size of a small country, someone says on the Grundig, collapsed into the Southern Ocean 3 weeks ago. The math took this long to reach you. You watch it happen from the warehouse roof. The olive-gray water below climbs the wall in centimeter marks you've been scratching into the concrete every 2 weeks. One morning, the marks stop making sense. The third-floor windows you'd been using for ventilation disappear below the surface before noon. The rooftop fills. 31 people now, where there were 19. Sleeping bags overlap sleeping bags. Tarps on PVC poles rattle in the wind. Propane canisters are stacked 6 deep against the parapet. The overcast sky sits low and silver, pressing everything down. 40,000 people are moving through this region. You hear them on the Grundig first, traffic on the emergency channels, voices layered over voices. Then you see the boats, kayaks, flat-bottomed aluminum skiffs, a school bus cab lashed to oil drums. They come from the south, where the 0.6 meters swallowed communities that believed the elevation surveys. You let in 12. You feed them from the supply you calculated for 20. The math breaks immediately. You tell 4 people they can't stay. You do it quietly, in the stairwell, away from the others. 2 of them are children, maybe 7, maybe 9, with a father who carries them one at a time because he only has one working arm. You tell him anyway. You point him toward the school bus raft, half a block east. You watch him walk away through ankle-deep water on the roof access stairs. You don't sleep well after that. You don't sleep well for weeks. One of the newcomers is a hydrologist. She carries paper maps in a waterproof tube, hand-drawn, corrected in pencil, updated with depth measurements. She pins one to a wooden post on the roof. People stand around it in silence. There is high ground, a ridge. You can see it on clear mornings, a dark line on the horizon where land still exists above water. The only functioning inland city in 200 kilometers is on the other side. The corridor runs through 18 kilometers of open water your group has never crossed. She traces the route with one finger. The water is choppy, exposed. No shelter for the middle 11 kilometers. You look at the canoe. You look at 31 people. Not the same problem anymore. 2 years. The spring pushes out of the hillside at roughly 80 liters an hour. You've measured it. Everyone has measured it. That's the problem. 3 groups, 340 people, and 1 crack in the rock that doesn't care about any of your arrangements. You stand at the edge of the hill in the early morning dark. Below you, the flooded city sits in gray water up to its 4th floors. A hotel sign blinks once in the wind. No power, just metal shifting. The church steeple you've been using as a navigation mark rises out of the water like a finger pointing at nothing. Cook fires glow in steel drums behind you. No generator hum. Not anymore. The man across the folding table has 140 people. You have 94. The third group, camped 2 ridges east, sent a woman in her 50s who writes everything in a spiral notebook with a golf pencil. She hasn't stopped writing since she sat down. You agree to a joint patrol. 6 hours on, 6 hours off, 3 rotating teams. You write it on paper because there's nothing else to write it on. You shake his hand. His grip is the grip of someone who's moved heavy things for 2 years straight. Rough, certain, a little too tight. You already know your 94 people can't hold a patrol route without the diesel. 4 liters per run, 6 runs per week. The arithmetic is simple, and it ends in the same place every time. You trade the 200 liters anyway. All of it. 1 load, 2 of his people with a hand truck. Gone before the other group's representative stops writing in her notebook. The generator goes dark that night. You don't announce it. People notice when the oxygen concentrator stops cycling. They notice when the CPAP machine in the blue canvas tent goes quiet. You count 3 people in your group who needed those machines to get through winter. You know their names. You don't write them in any document. You learn which silences mean acceptance. You learn which mean anger. You learn there's a silence that means people have already done the same math you have and are just waiting to see if you'll pretend otherwise. You don't pretend. Your hands, scarred across the knuckles from 2 winters of rope work, rest flat on the table. Your jacket is 4 layers of mismatched fabric, stitched at the shoulders with fishing line. You look like what you are, someone who used to make different kinds of decisions. The spring is still running. The agreement holds for now. 3 people don't make it to spring. You signed anyway. You'd sign again. 5 years. The girl is 7 years old. She points at the skyline and asks you what those buildings were for. You open your mouth. Nothing comes out. You try. People worked there. She nods. She doesn't know what that means. You try again. Hundreds of people, same building, every day. She looks at you the way children look at things that don't make sense. Like you've described a rule to a game nobody plays anymore. You let it go. The settlement holds 280 people now, perched at 22 meters above the old sea level. Wooden walkways bridge the rooftops. 2x4s salvaged from a hardware warehouse 3 kilometers south, lashed with paracord and bolted where you had bolts. Rope handrails line every edge. Rain catch barrels crowd every downspout, painted blue so the children know not to drink from the gray ones. Potted tomatoes and climbing beans run along every south-facing wall. From the water, the settlement looks almost intentional. Because it is. The buoy lane stretches west toward the drowned skyline. Bleach bottles, 1 every 200 meters, orange spray paint fading but still readable. You strung the first 14 yourself. Others added the rest. That's how most things got built here. You're sorting a salvage box when you find the photograph. Your old building, dry concrete. A barbecue on the 3rd floor balcony, the kind with a propane tank and a red lid. Someone laughing, half out of frame. You look at it for a long time. You wait for something to arrive, the tightening in the chest, the sting behind the eyes. It doesn't come. You set it face down on the pile. That absence, that clean, empty nothing, sits heavier than crying ever did. The children run the rooftop walkways in bare feet without looking down. They've never looked down to see a dry street. They read the water like a map. They name the buoys. The skyline to them is just shapes, like mountains. Like clouds. Just the way the horizon looks. You watch the girl run back toward the far building, sure-footed on planks 12 meters above the flood, and you think, she doesn't need the explanation. She already lives the answer. 10 years. The water is still this morning. Glass flat. Golden light comes in low from the east and lays itself across the surface, like something warm you could touch. 8 children, ages 6 to 11, paddle in a loose cluster around your canoe. The smallest one, 6 years old, maybe 22 kilos, grips her paddle with both fists like it might escape. You don't correct her. She'll find her grip. They always do. You navigate by landmarks now. The bleached signpost jutting 1 meter above the surface, the bent antenna of what used to be a traffic light, the line of moss on the building walls marking where the current runs fast. The buildings on both sides are draped in green to the 2nd floor, vines and hanging moss so thick the windows are gone behind them. It looks like the city grew here on purpose, slow and total and without asking. You paddle left around a concrete pillar, and the guardrails appear. 1 meter down, white-gray through the clear water, bent where something, a surge, a wreck, time, pushed against them hard. Barnacled along the lower rail. Still in their lines, still following the curve of the old overpass like they're waiting for traffic. You know this place. You don't say so. One of the older children, maybe 9, leans over the gunwale and looks down. "What's that?" he says. "Concrete," you say. "Watch the current. See how it pulls left around the pillar?" You point. "What does that tell you about depth?" He watches. He thinks. "Shallow," he says. "Shallow," you agree. You hold your paddle still and let the canoe drift 5 seconds above the old guardrail. Somewhere under the moss and the barnacles and 10 years of water, there's a steering wheel rusting in a car you never owned, on a road you drove 1,000 times, in a life you cannot fully picture anymore. You try. You get fragments, drumming fingers, a cargo ship on a flat horizon, nothing with edges. You lift your paddle. "Stay to the right of the pillar," you tell them. "Current's cleaner, less drag." They correct course, all 8 of them, without being asked twice. Coda. They stand at the boardwalk's edge, the retired couple, passing kettle corn between them as golden light spills across the water. She frames the sunset through her phone's camera, while he points out how the gulls seem bolder today, how the spray reaches higher than he remembers. The painted warning post behind them, weathered and peeling, marks a line they cannot see has already shifted. Neither notices the tide creeping past its old boundary, patient and inexorable. Somewhere down the coast, a cargo ship crawls across the horizon, and someone new sits drumming their fingers on the steering wheel, watching it pass. The cycle continues.